I get to talk to a lot of prospects, Joaquin, and people have this idea of coming to the US and starting an entire process inside the US with a B1, B2 visa and changing status to E2 or whichever visa that they're targeting would be easier, hassle-free, faster, as opposed to the consular processing. That's the common understanding that we're going to lay right into. The very beginning, B1, B2, what does it allow you to do? Because I hear this question a lot. People are asking, all right, Alan, I understand I'm going to come to the US, but B1, B2 is a tourist visa. Now they're buying a business, hiring people, maybe even running it for some time until I get my visa. Would I be breaching the contract? I mean, what is allowed and what is not allowed?
I'm glad you phrased it like that. You said B1, B2, I have a tourist visa. And that's like a very common mistake. And I know that me and you have talked about this, but it flows like that, right? A lot of people just say, oh yeah, I have a tourist visa. But usually they have a B1 and B2. So we have to make sure that we separate them both, right? B1, focus primarily, obviously, this is the United States of America. We love business and we like money, right? So B1, business. It's for business. But don't get confused. That doesn't mean that it allows you to work here. You need a work authorization or a visa that allows you, right, to work here because that's the purpose of the visa. But there's two separate things between working here without a work authorization and doing business here, right? Which is doing business. You can close contracts. You can talk to providers. You can talk to potential clients, all sorts of things that are business related, but you're not actually working and getting paid by, say, an employer for work that you're doing inside of the United States. So that's the B1 part of it. And then the B2 is for tourist reasons, medical affairs reasons, etc. Right? So a lot of people say I have a tourist visa when in actuality, they have both of them, right? So they have the ability to come in and progress in some sort of business endeavors that they may have, right? So long as they're not working and they can do so perfectly legally without a problem. So it's good to define that initially, right? B1, B2, what it is, right?
So you touched upon a good point. As long as they're not working. So let's build a scenario. Suppose that I came here, B1, B2. I said in the very beginning at the border that I'm coming in here to travel. So they registered my entry on B2. This guy is here for tourists. And then I changed my mind. And now I'm looking at businesses, and now I'm engaging in, business-related activities. Would I still be violating the visa?
Not in particular. If you have the B1 and B2, you were given that. So it doesn't really apply in terms of when you come in and you're saying, what am I going to do, right? It's more of when you were given the visa at the consulate, right? So what was the intention, right? Well, I'm going to potentially do some tourist stuff. I like to go on to Disney. At the same time, I don't know. I have, products that I sell back in my home country, and I have my providers are in the United States. So I'm going to stop by and say hi to them, whatever, shake hands, kiss babies, whatever it may be, right? Yeah. To foment that relationship and have a better, growth in my business. That's totally fine, totally legal. So when you are getting that stamped on your passport, that's what matters, right? What is it that you told, right, that agent at the embassy that you were going to be doing over here, and that's why you were given that visa. So perhaps you enter it and you say on that particular time, I'm going to do some tourism. But guess what? You got a call from your provider, and you say, hey, I'm also in Orlando. I'm going to be in Disney too.
Right.
Go there. You're going to talk to him, or her, and you're going to sit down and talk business, do business. Perfectly. There's no problem with that, right? The issue comes when, and I think we're going to dive more in depth into this topic, is whether or not you have a preconceived intention, right, of doing something else than what you're claiming when you went to your embassy appointment and you said that you were going to do either tourism or business stuff in here, right? And not say, stay here and do something else. Now, the United States government, USCIS, immigration laws overall basically have what it's called this 90-day rule, right? I don't know if you want to ask me about something,
No, I think
start running into this.
No. I appreciate that. What I was trying to make it clarify was the class of admission.
Yeah.
What happens when you're admitted as B2 and maybe things change, would that create a problem? So that was
I don't
more
think, yeah, that's not a
Yeah.
problem. Once again, I mean, whatever you were issued at the beginning, right? If you know, it's very seldom that you see cases where they just give you either a B1 or a B2, right? Although it happens, right? Usually they give you both of them. So, I mean, they're interchangeable. So I don't see an issue. And then how are they going to really know that, right? So,
Cool.
so it's not really an issue, I don't think.
Maquias Hernandez asks the question, if I come on a B1 visa, I am now exploring the E2 option. How soon do I need to start the process before my current stay expires?
Great question. So once again, we go back to what I was originally explaining here with my friend Aladdin. What you preconceived intention was when you were at the embassy and you got the B1 or B2, B1, B2 visa is what matters. If at that time your intention was to come in here as a tourist, go to Disney, or as a businessman, go see one of your providers, potential clients, whatever it may be, that's totally fine. That was your preconceived intent. That was your intention from the beginning. Now you're here, and then after being here for some time, and this is what it's called, the so-called 90-day rule, right? Immigration basically allows and understands that things change, right? So you just said right now, I came in on a B1 visa and I'm exploring the E2 option, right? So that's exactly what happens. Life happens. So they understand that. So after 90 days, then essentially you're now waving kind of like a red flag in the sense that, you know, if you had told already a consular officer that you're going to come in here for tourism or business purposes, right? And you come into the United States and then within a month or a week, you're already applying for an E2. Hey, hold up a minute. You just told us that you were coming in here to be a tourist or to do some, to business dealings. And now all of a sudden you want to do a different visa. Then perhaps you were misrepresenting, right, at the interview what you were truly wanting to do from the beginning. So that's why the 90-day rule is very important, because after the 90-day rule, then there's sort of like an overall understanding that, hey, life happens, opportunities arise, and then just like you have found opportunities where you're now exploring ways in which you can stay here legally and expand, create, begin your business here in the United States.
Thank you for that, Joaquin. David Sean said, my question is, can I include my spouse and kids in the E2 visa if I apply while still in US on a tourist visa? Thank you. It's a very important question.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important though. Once again, this all comes back to preconceived intent. So a lot of people say, oh, well, 90-day rule, I wasn't intentionally coming in, with the idea of applying for an E2 visa, but, this opportunity came across, we consulted with, a special team that knows what they're doing, like Visa Franchise. And then all of a sudden there's opportunities. So great. 90 days have passed. There's a process that needs to be had. I'm going to put in my kids, for example, in school. That's a huge mistake. A lot of people don't know about this. When you're enrolling your kids in school while you're in a B1, B2, that's a big no-no for immigration. Now, once you're given that E2 visa, there's no problem. And to answer your question, David, yes, you can do so. You can include your spouse and your kids in your E2 visa while applying in here. It's called change of status. Okay? You can do so. But what I'm trying to get across is there's a lot of mistakes that are done by people who are not basically being supported by the right team. And they make these pretty bad mistakes that if they come out in light, you're going to be in a really tough position in front of immigration. But to answer your question, yes, you can. Absolutely. The nucleus, the family nucleus to the United States and to the immigration laws of this country is extremely important. So, spouse and children under 21, pretty much every single visa that I know of includes spouses and children under 21, whether you outside or inside.